Let's talk about Mitch Johnson and his inexperience as a head coach heading into the postseason. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Spurs in Focus right here on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. You can get it on YouTube podcasts, so many other platforms. Go check it out. Go subscribe right now. Also, Spurs in Focus Substack, completely free, everybody. Yeah, go sign up. I am your host, Jeff Garcia, longtime Spurs writer in San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Hope you're having a great day. We got a good one for you today. We're going to be talking about Mitch Johnson and his inexperience as a playoff head coach. A lot of folks on the players, right? Oh, Wemby this, and Vassell doesn't have that, and Keldon, you've never been there. But we're kind of forgetting about Mitch. What about his inexperience? Should we be worried? There we go. Or should we not be worried? We're going to be discussing that. Preview tonight's Spurs-Blazers game. Talk about that Wemby injury. And yes, we're going to have a nerd segment where we're going to be celebrating a 50th anniversary of a particular movie back in my day with our guest as well. Let's going to bring him on. He is Mr. Mike Jimenez, formerly with San Antonio Sports Star. Jimenez, welcome, buddy.
Dude, I'm enjoying this whole setup, man. I like what's behind you.
The nerd wall is back. The nerd wall is back, and I am so excited for that. Even added a few. You probably can't see that. Even some of my passes here from all my cons I've gone to. We got Vader's back. We got Jinx is back. We got the fight between Goku and One Punch Man. It's all good. I'm in nerd heaven right now. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. You get to flex your nerddom. I like it, man.
I do. Right? You look at my shirt. I mean, you got
the product.
Look at that. Michael Myers at Prada. But Jimenez, I'm glad to have y'all back. Y'all want to follow him on X at MJ Acquired Taste? Do that right now. He's a great follow. He may provoke you if you're a Spurs fan. But hey, that's what he does. He wouldn't be Jimenez if he doesn't get the pot stirred every once in a while. But otherwise, you've been okay, buddy?
Doing fine, man. Enjoying the Spurs season. Everyone believing that the
yes
sky is falling. Spurs lose to the Nuggets over days ago, and then all of a sudden Wemby goes down with an injury, and the sky is suddenly falling.
But yeah.
Everyone needs to settle down.
Yeah, well, we're going to be talking about that injury in just a few minutes. Well, I shouldn't say injury. Scary situation because the Spurs, as of this recording, have not made any official announcement regarding Wemby's status for tonight's game. But, speaking of players and Wemby, hey, Wemby doesn't have any playoff experience, Jimenez. Nor does Keldon, nor does Devin. Who else? Oh, yeah, Harper, obviously. What about Castle? The list goes on and on. The main core players do not have playoff experience. And that's been kind of the thing, a pushback, if you will, when it comes to the Spurs and their potential playoff success. The talking heads of the major news sports outlets saying, yeah, Spurs are good, but are they a good regular season team? Let's see all the way to the postseason. And yeah, I don't know. They might be bad because they don't have their players do not have playoff experience. But we're forgetting about Mitch Johnson. This is his first time with, officially as a head coach. He's about to finish his first regular season. And he doesn't have any playoff experience. Coaching is vital in the playoffs, especially when it comes down to a game 7 or a crucial game, whether survive or advance. The list goes on and on. Now, to his credit, Jimenez, he did admit that, yes, he also does not have playoff experience. He wanted to remind everybody after a game recently about that. But Jimenez, should we be worried about that? Is that something that needs to be factored in when it comes to the Spurs postseason success?
In a normal world, the answer would be yes. Mm-hmm. In a normal world, it's conventional wisdom that you need to have that experience. The players need to have that experience. In a normal, conventional wisdom world, that is the case. But I don't believe it's the case with the Spurs.
What about with Mitch Johnson, though? Specifically Mitch Johnson as a rookie head coach.
Well, the thing about Mitch Johnson, I mean, it is a rookie season in that he was officially named the head coach of the team earlier this season, right? But he coached the entire season last year as well, all but like 6 games.
Sure.
So I look at it right now as Mitch Johnson really having his second season as head coach. This is the first time that he's actually had his team, his coaches in line and all of that stuff.
Right.
His players, the true off season and all of that. I get that. But Mitch Johnson has the luxury of having a generational player in Victor Wembanyama back there. He has the luxury of having 3 super competent guard ball handlers in Fox and Castle and Harper, having sharpshooters like Vassell and Champagny, and having a 6th man of the year candidate in Keldon Johnson. Normally, when you look at needing to have this experience, it's because you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle to make the good picture, right? He is in a position with such a deep roster. We didn't even talk about Luke Cornett, Carter Bryant, and what they can bring to the team as well, and what they have been bringing to this team. I look at it as though if the Spurs were not so deep, I would say, yeah, experience does matter. But because the Spurs are relatively healthy, say, believing that Wemby's going to be okay, right?
Yeah.
Healthy and deep makes it going to be easier for Mitch Johnson to do what he needs to do and make whatever adjustments he needs to make in the first and second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think the talent should be enough to maybe help him along his first year as an NBA head coach in the postseason. That's a big difference there. He'll be going up against the likes of, hopefully, crossing fingers, Adelman out in Denver. If they meet in the Dagenalt, if they meet in the conference finals, he might be going against some experienced head coaches that have been there, done that, won titles, and named two of them right there. Even Ott, for whatever he has some playoff experience,
right?
Out in Phoenix. Mitch has zero. It does come down to coaching when it comes to critical moments in the game. It does come down to coaching when the game is on the line. It does come down to coaching if it's a win in advance or win and survive situation. Based on what you've seen so far through the regular season, I get it. The regular season pales in comparison to the postseason. Do you have confidence in him? He'll make the right calls at the right moments.
He's going to have moments where he messes up.
Okay.
He's not going to bat 1,000, but I think he'll bat a good 800.
Okay.
When it comes to making decisions.
Yeah.
And it's because of the people like you're showing right there, De'Aaron Fox. It's because he has a De'Aaron Fox out there to lead the way. You have a Harrison Barnes out there who can settle the offense and defense down. He has the players and the veteran leadership there that have been in the playoffs to go along with the young guys who haven't been there. And you mentioned Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson. They've been with the team for 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
Never been in the playoffs, but they've been around the game so long that they're not going to get nervous if the crowd's getting amped up in Oklahoma City or Denver. They're not 20, 21 years old. They're in their mid-20s. They're in their prime. And I think they'll be perfectly fine. I think that Mitch Johnson's going to make a mistake from time to time. It happens to everybody. I mean, I remember that Ray Allen shot in 2013.
Yes.
Who was on the bench? On the Spurs bench that play?
Tim
Duncan. And that is probably the worst coaching move that Pop ever made. And he messed that up after having 4 titles already in his back pocket, right? The 5th one hadn't happened yet. So it happens from time to time. He's not going to bat 1,000 out there. And what's interesting is that like Spurs fans get in their feels immediately after a loss these days. We went from having 6 years in a row of having losing seasons. This year, now 60 wins on the year,
amazing.
Which is a remarkable. I thought, man, if everything was perfect, the Spurs were healthy and everyone took their leaps and Wemby became generational and became an all-star and all that stuff, we'd get to maybe 50. That was like best case scenario. And to get to 60 is remarkable. And because of that, it's because of Mitch Johnson. But Mitch Johnson has the roster. He has the depth. He has the veterans on this team, even down the way from Olynyk and Biyombo, just down the way to kind of settle things down a little bit and get into people's ears. I think the Spurs roster kind of helps Mitch Johnson do what he needs to do. But, I mean, even Pop struggled from time to time, even when he was experienced. So Mitch Johnson, not going to bat 1,000. Spurs fans, guess what? We're not going to win every game.
Yeah.
Happens. Yeah. We've won 60 this year. Spurs won, 27 out of 30. And the Spurs were freaking out because of an overtime loss on the road in Denver with a hostile crowd over there. And I don't get it. Just settle down. Spurs aren't going to win every game. They're not going to sweep every series. We're going to be fine in the playoffs as long as Wemby's healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Mitch Johnson throughout this season, we've seen him mess up sometimes. And to his credit, he has during losses have said like, hey, that's on me. I think it was a recent game. I forget what it was, but after the game, they struggled in the first half. After the game, he said flat out, that was on me. So he's aware that he still has his growing pains. Again, openly admitting that he's also inexperienced as a head coach in the real season. Is about to set in about 2 weeks here, Jimenez. But I look at Mitch Johnson right now. Throughout the season, he's been impressing me. Remember when they hit that wall where they couldn't make any type of shot? They had like some offensive flounder. They just could not get nothing going. He steadied the ship. Now their defense held them up, but he kept on let them know like you'll get through this. And that's what I like about his demeanor so far this season. But win big, he's the same person on that stage. Win by a little, he's still the same Mitch Johnson. Get clubbed, get beat down, he's still that same Mitch Johnson out there. He's even keel. And I think his personality and his temperament is perfect for this team, which is very, very young. He doesn't need to be exploding in their face or maybe calling them out through the media as Pop did. But then again, Pop had a whole different set of players. He had veterans. That's what he built a lot of his legacy on, veteran teams. This team is still young for the most part, not completely, but 90% of them, the roster is young. And I think his temperament fits well for what this young roster is. And even to this point, Jimenez, I like what I see. We saw them kind of struggle a little bit during the Chicago game, and he made the adjustments and they got the win. Now, Jimenez, we're talking about Mitch Johnson lacking playoff experience, but I think another key that gets lost in all this is his assistant coaching staff, Corliss Williamson and Sweeney. How big are those two guys next to them?
Man, I love having those guys there. Bring in, Sweeney with the defensive side and Williamson just helping the bigs. It's a great lineup there. This is what I wanted, right? So I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I was saying this back on the Sports Star and on my podcast now, talking about the fact that I always wanted the Spurs to have a young head coach, that the days of Pop had come and gone. He probably should have retired after 2014, probably should have retired after 2019. Pop had a fire in him that was constant. He was always running at boiling. Mitch Johnson, when he's upset, he's calm and cool and collect. But when he gets upset, it means something because he doesn't always show that, right? He set the tone early. Remember, embrace the mundane? I mean, that line.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, embrace the mundane, correct.
That line set the tone for the season, and it showed his coaching ability and what he has learned from Pop, what he has learned from all the other coaches around him. And players, whether they're young and old, whether they're Wemby or Champagne or Barnes or Fox, they look at him and they believe in him. Yeah, you sometimes look at players, NBA players who are multimillionaires making more than their coaches, obviously, more often than not. You can tell when they have contempt for their head coach.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can tell in Milwaukee right now.
Exactly, with the whole Giannis debacle and all that stuff. And then you look at the Spurs and you look at how they look at Mitch Johnson. They believe in him. They know what they have. If Mitch Johnson wasn't named head coach by the Spurs, he'd be the head coach someplace else.
Oh, for sure, absolutely.
We don't realize how much of a hot item he was when he was brought up and became the interim coach of the Spurs. The Spurs had lost so many different people in that coaching tree, right? From Becky Hammond to Ime Udoka to name 10 others along the way. And a lot of Spurs fans thought to themselves, man, we got left with Mitch Johnson. Like that's a bad thing, right? They wanted to have Malone come over and all that stuff, right? And I was always big on the Spurs need to have a young head coach because it is a young team.
It is.
And because of that, there's more of an understanding, no different than when Pop joined the team as a head coach and he was in his 40s. You get to identify with your players and grow alongside of these players. They believe in him. He believes in them. He's done a very good job of learning the rotations, of creating these rotations. And we're seeing a photo of Stephon Castle right there.
Yeah.
The leap that he has taken. Dylan Harper, Dirk Nowitzki on Amazon Prime over the weekend, calling Dylan Harper already the best rim finisher in the NBA. Wow. It's amazing what the Spurs have been able to do this year, all the leaps that were taken, and they all came together. But it all starts with the defense. It all starts with Wemby's health. As long as he's fine, the Spurs are going to be fine. I don't care if they don't have the experience, because last year's NBA champion, Oklahoma City Thunder, were the youngest team in the NBA last year, and they didn't have much experience either. So Spurs are years ahead of schedule, probably about 2 or 3 years ahead of schedule.
Light years ahead, yeah.
Yeah, we were hoping to be here in 2028, 2029. But we're here now. And the great thing is that the Spurs have won so many games out of the last 30, 27 out of 30, 28 out of 31. And if a team wants to beat the Spurs in the playoffs, round 1 or 2, they got to win at the Frost Bank Center. Yeah. All we have to do is hold serve and win home games, and we're in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Mitch Johnson, he will be the first to deflect and be like, no, it's the guys. They're the ones that are crediting for the 60-win season. but he had a lot to do with it too.
Right.
To bring all this team together the way they did in a massive change in the chapter of the franchise, going from Pop to Mitch, having Wemby on board, Castle just booming out of the gates when he's drafted. Harper, like same way, he put it all together and he kept the team steady. And I like that about him, steady. So fast you translate that into the postseason, I am not worried. I think he's going to do a damn good job. I think there are going to be moments. Yes, I do agree. He's going to probably mess up or two as long as the ship doesn't sink. As long as the ship doesn't sink. And I don't feel that he will allow the ship to sink in a playoff series, even if it's fighting to the last second of a game. He will make sure his team does that. Hey, guys, but what about y'all? Y'all worried about Mitch Johnson's inexperience as an NBA head coach in the postseason? Let us know on X. Let Jimenez know at MJ Acquired Taste. Let me know on X at Jeff G Spurs Zone. Subscribe on YouTube. What else? You got iTunes, Spotify, Pocket Cast. The list goes on and on. So make sure to go subscribe to Spurs in Focus right now. Hey, Jimenez, you want to preview tonight's Spurs-Blazer game?
Yeah, let's do it.
Subscribe to Spurs in Focus. Resistance is futile.
All right, so the Spurs-Blazers hook up tonight. Another chance for the Spurs to get somewhat of a test versus the Blazers team that is, I think, currently in the play-in bracket right now. So the Blazers definitely want to go into the postseason with some mojo, some good vibes. And what better way to do that than getting a W versus the mighty San Antonio Spurs? You may say, look at the tail of the tape here. All right, I got there for you. Looking at that, what do you think? What jumps out for you?
Well, what jumps out to me is what have you done for me lately? Portland's won 7 out of 10 games. So
yeah,
most recent time we're doing very well.
Mm-hmm.
They also have something to play for today in the sense that they're battling the Clippers for that number 9 spot.
There it is
in the Western Conference. And the number 9 spot gets to host at least one play-in game at home, potentially. If
right
7, 7 plays 8, 9 plays 10, right? If 8 falls, if 8 loses the first game, they host the next game. So they have home court advantage that they're hoping for at least one of the play-in games. Blazers have something to play for. Spurs are kind of trapped at that number 2 spot.
Yeah.
But what I look at this, what stands out the most is that they give up more points for the season than they actually score. Yep. 115.9 points per game given up is pretty high. That's ranked number 17. And then shooting wise, we talk about the Spurs being kind of an average 3-point shooting team.
Look at that.
15th to number 29. That's what screams out of there as well. So if the Spurs have a pretty decent 3-point shooting night, they should be fine. I'm not expecting Wemby to play in this game. Wemby has to play one more game and has to play 20 minutes. He can't just go onto the court, do the jump ball, and walk off the court.
Yeah.
He has to play 20 minutes of a game. It's probably going to be, I'm hoping,
Dallas
or the last game against Denver. Yeah. Whatever happens, though, Spurs are going to have at least 5 days off before they play a playoff game after the regular season ends.
Yeah.
So Wemby has time to heal. Do you think that Wemby has any chance of not playing one of these 3 games?
No, he'll play. He'll play.
Has to, right?
He has to play. There's no way. He's 20 minutes away from qualifying for awards? No way in hell he sits out. No.
I asked this question on my podcast, and I'm gonna ask a question to you, Jeff. Do you think that the Spurs looked at Wemby after he got hurt? He had played only 11 minutes, and knowing that it would count if he played 15 for that game. Do you think they looked at him and said, "Just finish the half, get that 64"?
No, I don't think they did.
Because man, he was wincing all over the place when he was, he made that reverse dunk.
Yeah,
instead of getting up and just being all excited, he started wincing. He made a 3-pointer and kind of grabbed his chest. Man, I would hate for this to be worse than what it is, but
I know.
Look at the tail of the tape, though. We look at our Spurs stats, but those Spurs stats are with Wemby out there 64 games.
Yeah, it's true.
My goodness, man. But the Spurs outclassed the Blazers, and I wonder if the Spurs could beat the Blazers in a playoff series, because that is a potential.
That is a potential, yes.
Right? They go into the playoffs at number 8, and then they win the first play-in tournament game. They're 7. They move up to 7, which means they would play the Spurs. So this is a potential first-round matchup here. I wonder if the Spurs could take out the Blazers in the 7-game series without Wemby.
I think they can.
I think so
I think
too.
they can. Yeah, I think they can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
why
maybe
not?
we're
Yeah.
now we're not too worried about the first round. But in looking at the tail of the tape right there, it's the fact that the Blazers give up a lot of points.
Yep, there it is right there. Opponent points per game. They give up nearly 116 points per game to the Spurs, number 8 in the NBA, as you see on your screen at 111.5. So there, it might come just simply down to that. Who plays the better defense? And like all season long, it's been your San Antonio Spurs. Looking at the field goal percentage, who would have thought this Spurs team heading into the season would be 4th in the NBA in field goal percentage at 48%? Largely probably due to Wemby getting real close to the rim, but nevertheless, hey, they're knocking down shots. They're knocking down shots. And like the 3-point field goal percentage, at one point they were near the bottom of the barrel of the NBA. Now, at least they're midway. They're kind of a middle of the pack team. I'll take it.
You mentioned Wemby being down low. Dylan Harper, by the way,
Yeah,
it's one of the few rookies in NBA history to ever get 50% field goal shooting for a season. That's remarkable. It's at 50.8% on the year coming into this game. And for a point guard to get that type of shooting percentage at his height, I mean, I know he's not 6'2". He's not Trey Jones. I mean, Dylan Harper is 6'6".
Yeah, he's
6'5", 6'6".
Yeah.
But the ability for him to get to the rim, the ability to finish shots and have that floater, have that 15-foot jumper.
Oh, yeah.
Remarkable.
Absolutely.
Remarkable.
But we notice I like about him that he talks. He loves to talk on that court. He scores on you. He's going to let the bench know. He's going to let you know. And I love that out of him. I think as he gets older and gets more comfortable in the league, he might be instigating some stuff where, opponents bark back at him and then fireworks could happen.
Well, Wemby talks trash too. It's funny, man. We haven't had this fire before, but did you see that split screen earlier this weekend of Dylan Harper jawing at Tim Hardaway Jr.?
I did.
And there's a split screen of Tim Hardaway Sr. and Ron Harper jawing at each other in a game 20 years ago. Yeah, it was funny.
That was good. No, it should be a Spurs W tonight in San Antonio, and should be. And I also think it will be a very competitive game because the Spurs and Blazers have met twice and they're split so far. They're 1-1. But as you saw on the tail of the tape, defense usually wins games. Spurs play the better defense. I think it's going to come down to that. Spurs brace yourself, win 61, Jimenez. Freaking 61 wins. When Vegas had them at a mid-40 win season, they blew the doors out of that projection. And here we are. I cannot believe that. Hey, before we get to the nerd segment real fast, we had this debate recently right here on Spurs in Focus, and get your thoughts on this. Regular season only. Is this the most dominant Spurs team ever?
This is a great question. I have an answer for you on this one.
Hit it.
This is the best team the Spurs have ever had. Doesn't mean they're going to win the chip.
Over the Kawhi 62 win season?
Yes.
Over the 14, Tim Duncan, we're pissed off. We lost the finals team.
Best team we've ever fielded.
Nah,
like you put them in time machines, and they play each other in a gym someplace.
Yeah,
Spurs 25-26 wins, clears, and I know that it's sacrilegious to say that because you have the Tim, Tony, and Manu years, 2014. Have you looked at the 2014 stats of the Spurs?
Oh, they're funny. They were just decimating. Their defensive rating was crazy.
Yeah, defense was amazing, but offensively, their third and fourth best shooting players were like Marco Bellinelli. I think Tony Parker was a leading scorer at 16 points per game, if I'm not mistaken. You look at that Spurs team; they were the beautiful game and all that stuff, but they were. It's weird because that was a very, very good team, an excellent team.
Well, but Kawhi was on another level. Well, you're talking about that year. I'm sorry, not Kawhi. I'm thinking of the Jaja Pachulia team.
That was a very good team. I mean, that was the year that LaMarcus Aldridge should have won a chip. And cemented himself as a Hall of Famer. By the way, the fact that Amari Stoudemire is going to be elected to the Hall of Fame is ridiculous. But, I mean, I'm looking at the points per game right now of the Spurs in that season, right? And no one really stands out. That was just truly a bunch of players that just kind of came together, played well.
They were pissed off. They were just a pissed off team.
But they were not offensive juggernauts like the Spurs are now. The Spurs have 8 players in double figures.
Defensively, they were pretty good.
The highest scoring player was a 31-year-old Tony Parker at 16 points per game. Duncan averaged 15. Kawhi averaged 12.8. Manu averaged 12. The fifth highest scoring player was Marco Bellinelli at 11. Patty Mills at
Go
10,
back.
Danny Green at 9, Dia at 9, Tiago Splitter at 8. So the Spurs had 9 players averaging 8 points or more. There was nobody there offensively that was a juggernaut. It was just pass the ball around whoever's wide open, and it was the beautiful game, and it was the most exciting Spurs championship they ever had.
Yeah,
I think in a vacuum, you put them in a time machine, they go on to some gym someplace and play a best 7. I think the Spurs are so talented now because of how athletic they are, because of Harper, because of Castle, because of Wemby, and the legs that they have and how deep this Spurs team is. Dude, Marco Bellinelli wouldn't sniff the court on this year's 2026 team, right? Neither would Boris Diaw, right? Boris Diaw or Keldon Johnson. I'll take Keldon Johnson. Luke Cornett or Tiago Splitter. I'll take Luke Cornett. You go line by line by line. Stephon Castle or a 31-year-old Tony Parker.
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox, who made an all-star team, versus a 30-some-odd-year-old Manu Ginobili. I just think I'm just doing this on paper, right? This is the best Spurs team that we've ever rostered out there. Doesn't mean they're going to win the championship. They may lose to Denver in the second round. They might lose to the Oklahoma City Thunder, but that doesn't mean that this isn't the best we've ever had. We got 50 wins.
Well, that's why we're focusing just on regular season only, because there's already people who are like, well, how can you say this about them? They haven't won anything. Well, that's why we're just focused on regular season only. We ultimately had our list down. We had the 14 team, the revenge team, as number 1, just simply because that team was on a mission, and we gave them the IQ, the basketball IQ, the pissed off vibe. We're gonna, they took on a very athletic and young and talented Miami team and just worked them. And I think they would do the same to this team.
If you want to make the argument that the 2014 could clear this team, we can have that debate, that argument, and I'm not going to say that I'm right or wrong. But the 99 team, 03, 05, 07 team, for sure this team's better than those teams.
Well,
because offensively they can. Offensively they could put up points.
Well, number 2, we had the Kawhi Leonard led team before Pachulia happened. I forget the year. That was him. That was LaMarcus. That was Pau Gasol, I think, was on that squad. We had them second, and then we had this current team. So we had them top 3. But it's a great debate. And everybody, once again, regular season only. All right, don't leave comments saying like, "Oh, you say they haven't won anything yet." We know that, but that's why we're focusing just on the regular season. All right, Jimenez, that's a good talk there, man. I love that debate. Will this team ultimately end when the regular season is officially over? Because you project they could potentially have more wins than that Kawhi Leonard led team. They could if they went out. Yeah, they went out. All right, Jimenez, you want to get a little nerdy with me?
Let's do it.
All right, welcome to your fun part of every episode right here on Spurs in Focus, where we get a little nerdy. Nobody should be surprised. Look what's behind me, all right? And if you live in San Antonio, I host all the cons in San Antonio, so no shock here. I always say this, Jimenez, if I didn't have a nerd segment, people might look at me and say, blink twice, Jeff, you're in trouble. Blink twice if you're in trouble. All right, so here we are. But actually, this is out of Jimenez's bag here. This is his idea. He wanted to bring this up at the nerd segment. And he is for those who don't know Jimenez, he loves movies. He's going back in time and captured the movies that he's never saw when he was a kid, teenager. And there's an anniversary of a movie that you want to bring up, don't you?
Yeah, this week is the 50-year anniversary. 50-year anniversary
50 years
of the Bad News Bears, starring Walter Matthau and San Antonio's own Jackie Earl Haley, who played Kelly Leak.
Yeah.
So I didn't watch a lot of movies back in the day. I was kind of sheltered that way growing up. But Bad News Bears was a game that I watched, and I look at it in retrospect, and it's the funniest thing ever, man.
Yeah.
The whole Astrodome. They're playing at the Astrodome. Kelly Leak playing Little League Baseball, but I don't know how old is he? 16? Is he 12? Yeah. He's smoking either way. Literally, he's smoking Marlboros. I have some issues with the continuity of that movie. Just like you couldn't get away with a lot of things that you know in that movie.
No, you can't do it now. Yeah, no way.
But great movie. Great movie.
Yeah,
a very good movie.
Yeah. It was a Tatum O'Neal was in that movie. What is it? Because Matthau, San Antonio, he mentioned early. You look at that movie and set in the late 70s. Well, that's when it was released, late 70s. They cannot do this year. You're not going to. Well, I don't know. Maybe you could because they had Bad Santa. Bad Santa was
that was 20 years ago though.
but it really has. I just think you maybe can get away with it in today's life. Maybe you just don't have a kid smoking. And there's the other one you could do. But then again, I mean, didn't they just recently have like some like literally rated X or R movie with kids? I forgot the name of it, but it was just recently where it was like 3 kids and they're just doing all type of stupid stuff. The point is, I forgot. I will probably look it up or probably hit me when we're done here. But no, nevertheless, it was filmed. Where's the film? It was in Los Angeles, but they based it in the Houston Astrodome. I think it was. Yeah.
I think it was the actual Astrodome though when they got to that scene.
Right. Yeah, for the championship game, I think it was.
But it was a $9 million budget, and it made 5 times that amount at the box office.
And then they try to do a remake with Keanu Reeves, which flopped.
Yeah,
flopped. Yeah, first of all, it was bad casting. I don't think Keanu Reeves is good for that role. That was not for him.
Well, I mean, Bad News Bears not only had that movie, but it had the sequels. The Bears in Training, right? And then they had they go to Japan in one. Like, why is it that whenever you have these movies go out, they have to have a sequel? They had to go to Japan. Karate Kid had to go to Japan.
Yeah.
Bad News Bears have to go to Japan. I've never seen the Japan one though, man. I haven't seen that episode yet.
No, I haven't. I don't think I've seen that one. No, I think I just seen the original and moving on. I don't think I ever saw the other ones. But and you know what? I mean, it's like the perfect formula. You have that grumpy old guy, Mathau,
right?
Chugging beer, chain smoking. He was an ex-baseball player, wasn't he? Like an ex.
I believe so. Yeah.
He comes in. They literally takes over the Bad News Bears because they just one of the worst teams. Very, I would say. What would you think? What was that recent well, not recent, but that baseball movie? Oh my God, I'm blanking out here with Sheen and a Major League, kind of Major League. Well, Major League kind of. There's like a little bit of comparison there because the Indians in the movie were the worst team in the league, and they were trying to bring in somebody to revive them. Well, not to revive them, but remember that was the whole goal. The owner didn't want the club to be revived because what was it? Selling it?
Rachel Phelps wanted to move to Miami.
Yeah, I wanted to move relocation, but they turned around and they became one of the best teams in the MLB. But no, it was a great movie. 1976 when it came out?
76, yeah.
76.
Kelly Leak, that character, you always have you had that grumpy old man.
Yeah.
Then you also had the great player who thought it was beneath him to play baseball with these guys, right? And the word that came into my head was ragtag just right now. And I thought to myself,
right.
How old am I to think of the term ragtag? I had to look up the definition right now. Ragtag means disorganized, motley, mismatched people.
Yep.
Shabby and unkept. Why that word is in my lexicon or my brain dictionary, I don't know. But it was a formulaic. It was, but the whole dramatic part about how they're catching up, and they run out of time. It's not that they lost the game; they ran out of time, and then they have that whole thing of let them play, let them play, and then all of a sudden the Astrodome is all cheering for them to let them play, and then they go back onto the field, and they make Astrodome history.
You see that formula of a bad team rising up. We mentioned Major League. That was one. What was the other one? Dodgeball was another one. The Average Joes. I wish they stuck to the original ending for that movie. The original ending was they're going to lose, and it was going to literally end with them losing. Like the last thing you're going to see is Vince Vaughn putting his hand over his head and like he couldn't believe it, and the credits start rolling. I think that would have been way better.
Wow. Yeah, Globo Jim was going to come out victorious.
Yes, Globo Jim was going to come out victorious.
I look at like Rocky 1976.
There you go.
It was a movie where you had this working class guy going up against the heavyweight champion, but at the end, he lost. Rocky lost in Rocky.
Rocky lost in one. Yes.
No one realized that walking out of the theater apparently back in the day because it was so loud. It ended like he lost. Boom. Yeah. Movie ended. It ended like the end of The Sopranos, right? You just you didn't see what happened. It just the screen went black. But yeah, that was kind of the thing. You have these teams that are, not supposed to match up. I mean, the Sandlot. Sandlot's another one where they beat the good team, and it's not so much that they're the good team. It's the rich team. The rich team was always
Yes.
the bad.
Little Giants.
Little Giants. There you go.
Yeah.
They have the white jerseys.
Yes.
They're always really clean. They got they don't have any grass stains on
What was that? What was that play? The annexation of Puerto Rico, something like that. that was the play call. The annexation of Puerto Rico, something like that. Those little kids who grew up in the Little Giants there.
So it's a formula, and it works, man. It works every single time, man.
Works every
you
time.
You had what was that one football movie with the Replacements?
Replacements, yeah.
That was another
Same
movie
thing.
that was pretty
Same
good.
thing, yeah. And then I can't think of one other movie where you have like that ragtag group that ends up winning. Oh, the Burt Reynolds, the whole 9 yards.
The whole 9
Yeah,
yards.
you had to remake it with Adam Sandler. So that was a prison football league going up against the security guards and the staff. So that's what it was. But no, I'm glad you brought that up here on this Nerd 7. Why? I was a little nervous. I was like, Jimenez ain't gonna be able to hang with me on this one. But you brought it up. I go like, yeah, let's do it. Let's talk some movies.
I'm not going to curse, right? But you mentioned Major League.
You can
Tom
curse.
Bear-
Just don't take it crazy.
Okay, I forgot. Tom Berenger. This is what the Spurs mantra should be. Remember that whole thing? But right before they brought out the Rachel Phelps.
Yes.
Every time we win a game, we
remove the loss
the
of the
section.
clothing. Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever they said, "Hey, no one believes in you. They think you're going to lose and all that stuff," and Tom Berenger's character comes up. He's the catcher, Jake Taylor. And he says, "There's only one thing we should do." And Dorn asks the question, "Well, what's that?" Win the whole fucking thing.
There you go. Simple.
And that's what the Spurs should be thinking right there.
It could be on a T-shirt for somebody for the Spurs playoff run is about to start. Maybe don't write the word out. If you put 13 or F and then all the symbols or like that, stuff like that. That'd be awesome. He is Mike Jimenez, formerly with San Antonio Sports Star. You want to follow him on X at MJ Acquired Taste. Jimenez, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule joining me here on Spurs in Focus. Appreciate the support. And between you and me, thank you for the pep talk you gave me recently on the phone. That was very, very nice of you.
Hey, good guy, man.
Very nice.
Good guy.
I appreciate it. Again, he is Mike Jimenez. Follow him on X at MJ Acquired Taste. Everybody else, we thank y'all for making Spurs in Focus your first and only spot for all things San Antonio Spurs. Don't go to anywhere else. Seriously, forget about them. Come here to Spurs in Focus. Subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Pocket Cast, even on YouTube Music. I kid you not. There's a Spurs in Focus YouTube music page. Go check it out. Don't forget to subscribe to the Spurs in Focus Substack, completely free. I don't charge you. As a matter of fact, Jimenez is going to buy subscriptions for the next 50 people. Next 50 people. Yeah, they're free. They're free. He's got your back there. We should be back. Yeah, I think we're going to be back tomorrow to talk some more silver and black right here on Spurs in Focus. So for Mr. Mike Jimenez, I am Jeff Garcia. Now you're in focus with Spurs in Focus.